Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, the champion of liberty, the third president of the United States, and also a man of contradictions. The guy who wrote all men who are created equal while owning enslaved people, the philosopher who dreamed of an agrarian utopia while living like a Virginian aristocrat. He was brilliant, infuriating, and complicated. In other words, the perfect founding father to talk about. Welcome to our republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands that kept
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not one small step for man.
Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Born in 1743 in Virginia, Jefferson wasn't like Washington. Where George was tall, military, and stoic, Jefferson was skinny, bookish, and happiest with his nose in a library. Seriously, he built one of the biggest personal collections of books in America. He studied law, languages, science, architecture. If it existed, Jefferson wanted to know about it. By the 1760s, he was a rising lawyer and a planter at Monticello, his hilltop mansion that he designed himself. He was wealthy thanks to inheriting the land and enslaved labor, and ambitious enough to dive into politics. But Jefferson's gift wasn't on the battlefield. It was with his words. And in 1776, the Continental Congress needed a declaration. John Adams supposedly told them, Jefferson can write 10 times better than I can, and he was right. Jefferson drafted the Declaration of Independence, giving us the soaring poetry of liberty. All men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Those words still echo centuries later. They also highlighted Jefferson's paradox. He wrote them while enslaved people worked at his plantation. After independence, Jefferson kept serving, however. He was governor of Virginia during the Revolution, not very successfully, if we're honest. He was ambassador to France, and while he soaked up the Enlightenment ideas, architecture, and taste for wine, back home he became the first Secretary of State under George Washington, consistently clashing with Hamilton over the direction of the new nation. Jefferson hated strong centralized government, believing America should be a republic of farmers, and thought cities and banks, and those cities and banks were corrupt. He thought Hamilton was naive. But they both had a point. In the 1800s, Jefferson won the presidency in what he called the Revolution of 1800. It was the first peaceful transition of power between political rivals in American history. For all his rhetoric about shrinking government, as president, he made some very un-Jeffersonian moves, right? Like the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. He doubled the size of the country. The Constitution didn't say he could, but Jefferson decided opportunity trumped purity. Jefferson, he also the Lewis and Clark expeditions, right? He sent them west to map out new land, opening the door for expansion. And then there's the Embargo Act of 1807. Tried to punish Britain and France by cutting off trade. It backfired horribly, tanked the economy. Even philosophers make bad policy sometimes. Sorry, it's a little lame dad joke. But Jefferson was a master of ideas, but struggled in practice. He preached liberty, but enslaved hundreds of people. He believed in democracy, but feared mob rule. He wanted limited government, but expanded executive power when it suited him. His personal life is just as messy, deeply private, a widower for most of his adult life, and entangled in a long relationship with Sally Hemings, one of the women he enslaved. Jefferson is the definition of complicated legacy. Now, after his presidency, Jefferson retired to Monticello, buried in debt, but still writing, building, and corresponding with old rivals like John Adams. And the two died on the same day, July 4th, 1826, exactly 50 years after the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson, the philosopher of liberty, he gave us a language of freedom, but lived a life entangled in contradiction. He dreamed big about democracy, education, human progress, but he also carried the flaws at the same time, his own flaws, like we all do. And I really appreciate you listening. I really do. I know these ones are really short, and they're meant to be. Just remember, history isn't boring. It's the story of brilliant, flawed people whose ideas outlive their imperfections. We'll see you next time.